Welcome to Ya Heard with Nerds. I'm Brett.
I'm Dorian.
We got some nerd news for you.
As always, we're going to be talking what the deal is with this year for Comic Con and E3. We're also going to dive into some Switch Pro rumors. WandaVision's had its finale this week, so we're definitely going to be talking about that. But to kick things off, we might actually have a title for the MCU X-Men movie, and it's not going to be called X-Men, according to reports.
No, which is probably good that they don't call it X-Men. But I was honestly surprised that they didn't, because I feel like it would just be like, X-Men hyphen whatever or X-Men colon whatever. But they're going with the Mutants, and the logo that has come out at least looks very reminiscent of like the old school, uh, like comics font, if that makes sense.
So,
Like for
so
X-Men,
is
the
there a
the red
logo
and yellow.
now?
What I saw was a logo on the video I watched, but I don't know if there is one confirmed. That's just the one I saw.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, again, this as far because this is all still speculation at this point, or just
No, they
rumors
came
at
out
this
and
point.
said that this is what it's called, the
Oh, they
Mutants.
actually came out to it.
I'm
Okay,
pretty sure. Yeah, they made the announcement on like last Thursday or something.
okay.
Yeah,
So
so it's coming. We just don't know exactly when.
yeah,
But
yeah,
who knows? Because they release titles like 10 years in advance at this point.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So
I hadn't really considered them. Before hearing this news that they were gonna not call it X Men because you just figured they would just call it X Men. But I mean,
yeah,
seeing
especially
how
like what
oh,
if
go
there's
ahead.
like a oh, I was gonna say what if there's like a sequel, then you call it the Mutants blah blah blah, or is it gonna be like it's just gonna be weird with X-Men not in the title?
It is, but I think like essentially it's doing one of two things. So one, it could be essentially like laying the foundation for what the X-Men will be. So this is kind of almost like Marvel's
Like
version of
pre
X-Men
X-Men.
for right, pre-X-Men, X-Men First Class kind of thing. And also just to avoid the affiliation with what people have in their minds as like, oh yeah, that's the movie that has Hugh Jackman and it also has Sansa Stark from Game of Thrones and all that, and Jennifer Lawrence. I think they're
Yeah.
just kind of trying to distance themselves from that type of branding. I'm guessing if I had to just
Yeah.
yeah
No, it makes sense, but I just find it weird that they're going with, because they went with, I think it was X-Men uh for like all those other movies, and they could have done something like, X-Men had like some branches of X-Men comics, and so I was wondering if it'd be like, the new X-Men, or
the
something
Uncanny
like
X
that
Men
would,
or
yeah, like that would be cool if they called it Uncanny X-Men, because that was like one of my favorite runs as a kid, like in the 90s with the Gambit. Actually, I think Gambit was Uncanny X-Men like 262 or something. I don't remember what it is, but anyway, it would have been cool if it was the Uncanny X-Men, because that would have differentiated it enough in my head.
yeah yeah. I mean, hard to say. I mean, at this point, I don't know. I kind of feel like we might be 4 or 5 years before seeing this movie materialize, but I
I'll
don't know. What
put
do you think?
Yeah, I'm thinking like you're probably right, but I would like to see it
Okay,
sooner, more like 2 to 3 years.
hopefully, fingers crossed, people.
Fingers crossed. But let's talk E3. That typically happens in the summer. We typically get a lot of information from that, and it's not
Hmm.
happening this year. It's just not. They're not doing the live event at least, and so
Yeah,
well, it's kind of a duh, I think, for most of these things because they're held in LA, and I'm just like, move to Texas. Have Texas be the big,
honestly,
like, because they're open, and people, they can take their precautions and wear their mask, whatever they want to do, but at least have the events and go to some
hmm
form of normalcy, for our sake. Like I liked watching E3 coverage. I thought that was really fun, but it's not really that fun just to watch a bunch of people do a Zoom conference for all day. Like it was kind of cool because they did a good job with some of the stuff, but I'm like, let's go back to like and if you want to limit attendance, that's fine. But for the media, like maybe you just make it a media event if that's the case. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing this is just essentially going to be pretty much just like a Nintendo Direct almost, or like a PlayStation State of Play. I mean, obviously, them getting their live event canceled does not bode well for the future of E3. I mean,
No, it does not.
I I personally want E3 to succeed, but on the right terms. I don't want it to,
Yeah.
you know, go with this antiquated model that they've kind of been pushing hard for the last 5 years when it's really shown its age for the most part. So I think they got to reinvent themselves, and I and I would rather have E3 stick around and have like a nice big event of some kind to look forward to than nothing at all. So hopefully they can get their act together. But on top of that,
Yeah.
uh, Comic Con.
Yeah, that's true.
Comic
Yeah,
Con's the
well,
same deal, kind of.
yeah. Unfortunately, it's just oh, I guess I did skip that, huh?
Yeah,
Oops. Yeah, Comic-Con and
I got you.
E3 are digital. I mean, we I don't know. I think I said what I needed to say as far as like move it to Texas or it's cool. Like it brings in a lot of business for people. Like let it bring business to San Antonio or to, one of the other big places in
Sure.
Texas and Houston. Who knows? Like just make
Sure.
it happen. Um
Yeah.
so yeah,
I
but
mean,
we're still gonna get
and
we're still gonna get both of these events. It's just not gonna be in the format necessarily that we want. I personally think both of them are just done. I think Comic Con's done, and I think E3's done because
really,
yeah, like I think it not like I could see Comic Con being the one that survives out of this, but E3 is 100% done. This is not gonna happen anymore.
yeah. I mean, E3, I could definitely, I think, is more in danger of going away than Comic Con is because, I mean, Comic Con is like, for one, they have more than just one. I mean, obviously, San Diego is the biggest Comic Con of the year. That's where all the big stuff happens. That's where
Yeah,
all the
that
big
New York,
announcements
New
come
York
into
would,
play.
but
New York is another big one too, but not at, but like San Diego, that is the Comic Con if you want to go to a Comic Con here.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, basically, we will be just getting an online event July 23rd through the 25th. And not really that much of a surprise because California has some of the most restrictive COVID laws in the country. Um, I just hope whatever they
yeah,
got for this year is actually worth tuning in for, because last year's show was pretty lackluster from what I remember. I don't remember like a whole lot of big things coming out of that Comic Con, but um, honestly, I think you know I think they just kind of, if they can do it like kind of similar to DC Fandom, something along those lines, because I felt Fandom actually did
that
deliver.
was the best one in my
Yeah,
opinion all summer for honestly the whole year.
yeah. I think Fandom was the one digital event that actually delivered the goods, and I mean, so we'll see how this whole thing goes. I mean, I know for some people, Comic Con is like the highlight of their year, and you got like a lot of things that really like the whole like being there in person, going to the panels and all that. That's like, I don't feel like you really could replace that type of feeling just with the digital event here.
Yeah, yeah, I get it, and so we'll see what happens, but we're going to talk about some rumors now, and that being the Switch Pro rumors, because they've been coming and coming and coming, and we haven't really talked about them too much because we've kind of written them off like, well, they've been saying this for a while, but now it kind of seems like this is probably going to happen later this year. I'm guessing probably Christmas. I'm guessing like a November release, but according to
Yeah.
Bloomberg, Nintendo is planning on releasing the new model later this year. It's going to have a 7-inch OLED screen up to 720p resolution, And right now, I think it's like a 6-inch screen, if I'm not 6.2 inches, something like that. So you're getting like
Oh,
another
for
for
the
the current
standard
Switch.
Switch?
Yeah, is it like 6 or
Yeah,
6.2?
6.2.
Yeah, so and it's for
6.2.
yeah, it's 480, right? It's not, or is it 720? I can't remember. I wanna
It
say
depends on the game.
yeah.
I think some games run 720, others they'll run 480. Again, just depends on the game, I think.
Yeah, so the big thing being it's OLED, which is gonna make it a little bit crisper, a little bit sharper, very similar to something you'd see on like, it's kind of interesting to say, but smartphones have a little bit better technology than the docked mode of or the undocked mode of the Wii of the not I was gonna say Wii U of the Switch. But
Yeah.
when you're docked, it's gonna have a 4K output. So I'm interested to see how this is actually gonna run, and why Nintendo is kind of moving this way with the Switch Pro. Because here's the deal: like, we're what, year 4 in the Switch?
Yeah, we just passed the 4-year mark just a couple days ago.
Yeah, because my birthday just happened. I remember it was like the 3rd, I think it came out, right? It was like the day after my birthday.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, the
yeah,
third.
so the we're 4 years into the Switch itself, and I'm wondering, are we gonna have another 4 years of Switch? Because if that's the case, I will buy a Switch Pro, and if they have dedicated games, which I can see them doing, because I did it for the new 3DS, just for the Switch Pro, like Breath of the Wild 2, if they're gonna wanna run it just
Yeah.
on the new stuff, or if they have other games, or if you're streaming games, because it seems like they're going to be doing
Yeah.
that more and more. I'll probably end up getting one.
Yeah.
But if not, if this is just like, well, in like a year or two, we're going to have a whole different system, it's not for me. I mean, I don't care too much about playing Nintendo games in 4K. That's not really, they're not going to be that
Sure.
much different because of they're kind of more cartoony games. They're not realistic games.
To a certain extent. I mean,
Mario,
yeah.
like
I mean, it's
I don't
hard.
know.
Sure. Hard to say. But I mean, here's the thing. What we're seeing now, I mean, because this is all coming from Bloomberg, so it's, an actual like it's not just some redditor on
Yeah, it's a
like
pretty
a
reputable.
subreddit just making these wild claims and whatnot. Um so this does fly in the face of what we heard like I want to say like about a month ago about like at an investor meeting where they basically said that there is no Switch Pro planned for this year. But Nintendo does
Yeah.
love to keep playing things pretty close to the chest for the most part. So this could just be another instance of them just doing just that. For me, I mean, I think the name of the game is price. Like how much are you going to charge me for
Yeah.
this thing? And here's the thing: we've been kind of, I feel like, in a little bit of a nebulous last gen and even this gen in terms of like what are consoles going to be looking like going forward, because it seems like they kind of are trying to start like integrate like the smartphone model where you'll have like the newest versions of like the smartphone that can still like run most of like it'll still run like all the other stuff, and even your old smartphones will still run like the apps and whatnot, but at a certain point they become outdated. So I'm kind of wondering if Nintendo is finally like adopting that smartphone model, because we we all thought that when the Xbox One X, Project Scorpio, and the PlayStation Pro, we kind of thought that might have been somewhat of the case on that time. But yeah, so it if it if we are going to be playing Switch for at least another 4 years or 5 or however many, because I mean, at one point they did say they want the Switch's life cycle to last for like 10 years, then yeah, I mean, it makes total sense here. So I think it's gonna have to be a wait and see approach. I could definitely see them trying to pair this with Breath of the Wild 2. I don't think it'll be exclusive because that would be doing a lot of people dirty
No.
on that one here. But I could definitely see like, okay,
Yeah.
you know, if you want like the best experience for Breath of the Wild 2, it's on this thing here.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it's definitely kind of the same, wavelength. Like, obviously, I'm gonna keep my Switch, but I can they're not like there's not really a lot to improve on, in my opinion, for the Switch.
I mean,
Like,
a battery, a better
other than
battery
the
life would be
graphics,
one thing.
battery life, graphics, sure. And as
Yeah,
technology evolves, it will get better. But I legitimately, unless there's some groundbreaking new graphics thing that happens, like I don't see them getting any crazier than they already are, except for them. They've never been someone other than like the 90s and early 2000s to really be one of the juggernauts for the console wars. It's
for
PlayStation and Xbox,
graphics.
and then they're their own thing. So I don't really see them doing that, but I think what they
Mhm.
have now, like, it's like, why change it? It's killing it. Like, it's one of the best selling consoles of all time, if not the most. I can't remember, but
Yeah,
um yeah,
I
don't
think I
don't
think
fix it if
by
it
and
ain't
large,
broke.
I think by and large, true. I think by and large, one of the things that is probably pushing this move to happen is the fact that we now have a PS5 and an Xbox Series X that are out in the wild now. And if they want to
That's
like be
true.
able to like say port games over from those consoles into a more portable version of those on the Switch, I don't think your standard Switch is going to be able to do that unless they do their cloud-based streaming thing, which that's been, from what
Right.
I understand, pretty hit or miss. I haven't played any of those streaming games at all,
Me
so
either.
I can't really comment on that. But I feel like if they are wanting to keep those ports and keep things like that, you know, going and just uh, keep full steam ahead on that, that might be their thinking on that front.
Yeah, I can see that. We'll see where it goes. Do you want to talk some delays? Some moves?
Okay, I like that second part. So
Yeah. So Fast and the Furious has been delayed by a month. It's heading back to June, with which this is a weird thing. And basically, I think they're from the same studio and they're just kind of swapping places almost.
are they?
Um
I thought Quiet Place was Paramount, wasn't it?
yeah, so is Fast and the Furious.
Well, isn't Fast and Furious Universal?
I don't know. That's a good question. It
Okay.
could be
Um.
actually, no, I think it is Universal. But
Okay.
I th- I'm trying to remember. Anyway, so these two are like almost swapping places, it seems like, where Fast and the Furious is going from that May date, the 28th, and it's getting pushed back to June. And A Quiet Place
Mhm.
was I think September or something like that, and it's
It was
moving up to
September.
May 28th. So, I don't know. That's kind of a glimmer of hope for the future of cinema.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's not like a huge delay on Fast and Furious's part, and then
No.
also the fact that they are willing to essentially bump up Quiet Place's release date like 4 months, I think is actually probably a pretty telling sign that they're like, okay, we feel pretty confident that things are actually going to be looking more like normal going forward. And I think we talked about this last week about New York lifting their movie theater restrictions, and now Texas is pretty much completely open here for the most part here, as well as Mississippi. So I think you're
Yeah.
going to see more places and more states follow suit as everything goes on.
Yeah, one can hope. So we'll see what
Agree-
happens with that. That's it for our nerd news this week. Pretty light week, but we got a pretty decent sized roundtable review for you guys. So stay tuned for that. Dorian, what do we got?
Well, let's kick things off with WandaVision's finale, which I guess it's a series finale here. It seems like,
Yeah.
because I can't really imagine there's going to be a WandaVision season 2, and they even called the episode series finale. So I'm guessing pretty much this is closing the book on the show for the most part. So but
Hmm.
so basically, you know, we're gonna make, spoiler alert, but we're gonna make just really brief um kind of brief points on like kind of what happens real quick. So essentially, it goes down pretty much like what we predicted last week. Witch versus witch, Vision versus Vision. The boys, you know, interact and come into play at some point. Um, um, Wanda essentially becomes the Scarlet Witch after her battle with Agatha, and basically
Mhm.
undoes the hex. But in doing so, undoes she wipes her
Their
sons and
family.
also and Vision from existence here. But Vision was able to transfer or transfer his memory to White Vision
His memories.
before getting
So
wiped.
White
So now,
Vision is now Vision? Question
yep,
mark.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, it's like, okay, so now you got
He's
like a reconstructed body and you also have the memories of the guys. I mean, he's he's basically Vision at that point. Um so they pretty much end it there. Uh Wanda leaves Westview and we get two post credit Easter eggs. One of them is that Monica Rambeau is talking with an FBI agent that in private who reveals herself to be a scroll and says that um,
yeah.
a friend of your mother's would like to talk to you, and she's like, okay, well, where is he? And she just points up, and that's pretty much the end of that
Yeah.
scene. And the other scene is where Wanda, it kind of shows where she ended up, where she's like up in the mountains somewhere. Looks very like European in terms of like the architecture of the house, like kind of Swiss, like cabin or something like that. And it looks like okay, she's just hiding out, just kind of minding her own business, being a hermit, drinking tea. But then you go into the other room and it shows her in her Scarlet Witch get up, uh, using the book that Agatha had and like essentially like learning from it. And then you hear the voices of what it seems like to be her sons, and it looks like she's trying to figure out a way how to bring those two back here, so to speak. So that's pretty much it. What are
Yep.
your thoughts on everything we got going on here?
So yeah, obviously pretty decent episode. Nothing crazy, but I don't really understand the final Easter egg. Like you said, it looks like Wanda's there, but then Scarlet Witch is also there. So it's like, are they two separate beings? And is this like, or is she like, why did we see Wanda and then see Scarlet Witch? That's what I'm trying to figure out. The witch is also
It
reading that book. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wasn't entirely sure how to take that either. I mean, at first I thought, okay, maybe she's just projecting herself or something like that, or she learned a way, like some way to be in two places at once, kind of thing, or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, from what it sounds like, there's definitely, especially from like Agatha's dialogue in a lot of this episode, is that these people had to learn to be witches. She brought up Sorcerer Supreme, so we know that there's a tie to Doctor Strange,
hmm
because he currently is the Sorcerer Supreme, if I'm not mistaken. And
I don't think he's officially become Sorcerer Supreme just yet because it was
yeah, it was the
uh
bald
the one
lady.
that Tilda Swinton, the Great One. She was Sorceress Supreme, but now obviously Doctor Strange will become Sorcerer Supreme at some point.
Right. And so so obviously she kind of has ties to them as well. So it's interesting to see how that played out. The battle was pretty cool, I think, in this episode. That was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
But like you said, we don't really have any obviously answers. I'm guessing it's going to be a direct setup for Multiverse of Madness, because and what was really cool is we got a fully realized Scarlet Witch in this episode. Like, she had like the headpiece thing, the full on costume. Like that was pretty cool, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
But yeah, so and then we'll see. I mean, obviously I think it's all multiverse set up, like I said. And then like you said, Vision gave White Vision his memory, so he's basically Vision, I guess. I kind of called that, I think, where I'd say they merge in some way. And then the one thing I was really pissed off about, honestly, is Pietro. Um,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it was just a cheap way to kind of explain it, but at the same time, not. I felt like that it was just kind of lazy. Basically, somehow he has powers, but he's this different name. He's an struggling actor. What was his name? I can't remember his first name, but his last name was Boner.
Ralph Boner.
Ralph Boner.
Ralph
So
Boner.
yeah, I hate that. I really didn't like that. But I'm like, how does he have super speed then? Did she give him that ability? Like, was he?
I'm guessing so.
It's
Yeah.
just dumb.
I mean,
Why? Yeah. Why not? Why would you go out of your way to get a Quicksilver from the property you just obtained if it wasn't Quicksilver? Doesn't make any sense. So
no, no, it does not. And I mean, it's a shame that that thread did not evolve into something bigger.
yeah,
And if this is what they were going to do with the Quicksilver role, like to begin with, where it was just going to be like this big nothing, essentially like it wasn't going to be like any ties to like the multiverse or anything like that. Why not just bring back Aaron Taylor Johnson? Because that would have made more sense for the story and all that. So I don't know. It just seems like it's just turning out to be more of an Easter egg than an actual plot point, and I'm just like, okay, don't play with our
yeah.
emotions like that here, okay?
Yeah, and with this episode, really, what I saw it as, yeah, we had some kind of finality to the series, and it
Hmm.
also springboarded 2 movies, which would be Captain Marvel 2 and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, mainly because of what you were saying earlier, but we got to see more of Monica Rambeau's powers. I'm guessing she's gonna adopt Photon as her name, but, like, she kinda become
Hmm.
like, basically, things could move through her, and she slowed him down, like because that one dude, I can't remember his name, the dude that was heading up Sword, he was
Hayford,
trying
I think.
yeah, he was just a big old butt face and tried to shoot the kids, which I'm like, "Okay, this is crazy." Because basically everything he was trying to do was falling apart,
Yeah,
and then we got Jimmy Woo being a hero, bringing the FBI in to help him out. Yeah, so I and then, yeah, the scroll lady coming at the end and saying, "Hey, your mom's friend's waiting," and I personally think it's Captain Marvel, not Nick Fury, like some people think, but, I think that makes way more sense because she
yeah,
was friends with her mom, like, they were really close, she called her, her aunt when she was younger, and so, I think it'll be a cool way to tie her back in and, you know, make Captain Marvel 2 a little better because I think Monica Rambeau is gonna eventually take over Captain Marvel. We haven't really seen her too much. She's kind of a bland character in my opinion, but yeah, we'll see what happens, and then obviously
yeah,
that's gonna leak into other. They have a whole slate of movies announced, and with the more scroll activity, and I think you do say it in the notes, but with the more scroll activity, you're like, all right, this has got to be like a Secret Invasion, Secret Wars kind of setup. Like we keep seeing them. They've been in Spider-Man
yeah,
Far From Home. Now we got them here, and they're kind of infiltrated. It's like, okay, what is going on? What is Captain Marvel? What is Nick Fury doing in space exactly?
yeah. Yeah, I think, I personally think, uh, in that, post-credit scene with, the scroll, I definitely think they're talking about Nick Fury just because Nick Fury knew Monica Rambeau's mom from, Captain Marvel, and also, um, when they brought up Captain Marvel earlier in the show, Monica Rambeau was not exactly, like, warm to that idea. She made it seem like that there was something, um that there was like some bad blood or some tension between her and Captain Marvel, essentially, or something like that. And also, they say like uh, they refer to the person that wants to speak to Monica Rambeau as him. So I'm guessing it's Fury.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah, I went back and watched it because I was
Yeah.
just like, I'm like, okay, hang on, let me listen to this again because it's either like the main scroll from Captain Marvel, Fury, or Captain Marvel, and then when they said him, I'm like, okay, it's either the scroll or Nick Fury, but I'm assuming Nick Fury, seeing how just given how where we saw him at the end of Spider-Man: Far From Home.
Yeah, I think this episode, obviously we don't get closure for a lot of people. So basically, after Scarlet Witch beat Agatha in their witch battle,
Hmm.
she kind of turns her back into Agatha, like on
Or
on
Agnes.
WandaVision. Like she like wipes, or sorry, yeah, Agnes. She like kind of wipes her memory a little bit, and so we don't know what's gonna happen with that until she needs her for whatever reason. So obviously she's gonna come back, and then White Vision just takes off and
Hmm.
goes, "I'm Vision," and leaves. And so it's kind of like, all right, well,
Yeah.
what's going
Yeah, he's
on
like, I'm
here?
out.
Yeah. Um, overall in a general sense, I think it was a solid episode, but it wasn't like breathtaking. It wasn't crazy. So I gave it like a 6.5, 7 point, I don't know, in between 6.5 and 7.5. So I'll just say 7 for this episode. And honestly,
Okay, fair enough.
the
That,
whole series I feel like is good. It's like a 7.5 ish for me.
that's fair. So just kind of wrapping up, just my thoughts on this and the series in general. I I'm starting to wonder whether or not the post credit scene. I mean, I would imagine it's a setup for Captain Marvel 2, but I'm guessing it's also a setup for Secret Wars or Secret Invasion at some point. Um, all in
Yeah.
all, I this episode did have the level of action you would expect from like an MCU movie. I was kind of surprised that she did lose basically her family. I mean, obviously, I'm sure that's going to be fixed at some point. I mean, we already have a stand-in for Vision here, so now I think Multiverse of Madness will probably tackle the whole idea of her going to go get her kids. Um, let's see here. I mean, there's still some unanswered questions, like you said, like what happened to White Vision? Like we don't exactly see like where he went or what he's doing. Uh, what exactly happened to Agatha? Because I was kind of confused by that because I figured like, when she undid the hex, she would also undo what she did to Agatha, but she could have probably just kept uh that com- that whole
That
thing on
spell, yeah.
Agatha. Yeah, that spell just on Agatha alone here. So overall, yeah, I thought it was a solid episode. It wasn't mind blowing. I'm more interested to see what happens after this than what happened in the episode, to be honest. Um, and just kind of looking over the series as a whole, I would say it's probably a 7. I'm kind of right there with you for the most part. It had some really solid moments. It had a decent amount of intrigue, but there's some reveals that didn't actually pay off, like the whole Pietro thing that turned out to be a big bait and switch. Um, and
Yeah.
I think the main issue really is like the show was pretty slow at parts. Like, those first 2 episodes were kind of a drag, and I think 9 episodes was a few too many. I think if it was like 6 or 7, and you just kind of condense the major events more, it would have probably been. I
Yeah.
think it would have been better. I would have given it an 8 if they got that pacing down a little bit better. But
I think if they cut the first 2 episodes and made them kind of one episode,
yeah,
because I think honestly, I know a lot of people who stopped halfway through episode 2 because they're like, I'm not gonna keep watching this. This is lame. And I'm like, you gotta watch episode 3. And they're like,
yeah,
okay, but you shouldn't have to explain that to someone. Like it should grab them right away.
right. And I mean, they're essentially banking on the goodwill that they've bought with over the last 10 years of making stuff that people want to see here. And so they're like, okay, yeah, we can play the slow game and people will still watch it. But it's one of those things where it's like just because you've bought goodwill towards your audience doesn't necessarily mean you need to like uh it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to like, not deliver the goods here, So, but
Yeah.
let's move on to the next thing on our roundtable review, Berserk or Berserker, right?
Berserker, yeah.
Yeah. So this is
Yep. So go ahead.
yeah, this is Keanu Reeves making his comic book debut. He kind of worked on a little bit of the writing. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, actually I think him and another guy I think wrote it, with him being the most, like, he's the number one person on the list. So obviously
Yeah.
you're going to do that if Keanu Reeves is in your comic, and his likeness is obviously there too for the main character.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
Berserker.
why don't you tell us about it here?
Yeah, so basically, it's the first issue, so there's not a lot there yet, but pretty solid setup for the series. Because I want to say, I can't remember how many episodes or how many issues it's going to be. It might be an ongoing. I have no idea. I can't see Keanu really sticking around for that long, but
Hmm.
basically, it's about a guy who's immortal and essentially godlike. His eyes glow blue when he fights, and he's kind of a mercenary type of person. Not a mercenary. I think he works for the government, but he's been around for forever. Like, uh, it kind of alludes to it in the comic. I'm not going to spoil it, but he beats the crap out of people. It's pretty gory. It's a fun. It's definitely for fans of Keanu Reeves and the John Wick kind of genre, but really cool art. And guessing it's going to be a movie at some point. But all I have to say is go buy this book and thank me
I
later.
mean, fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, yeah. I mean, come on. If Keanu is still as hot as he's been, you know, it's going to be a foregone conclusion that this is going to be made into a movie at some point. And guess who's going to
Yeah, and I had
star in
a
it?
Yeah, no kidding. I had a stack of books this week too, and like most of them were pretty flat, and I feel like this would have been like my pick of the week. For like,
Gotcha.
American, standard comic books, I guess, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It was good.
Well, let's flip things over to the not American side of things here. So we have another comic book on our review agenda. So called Solo Leveling. So this is a Korean comic. Is that correct?
Yeah, manhwa I think is what they call their comics, similar to like manga
Manga.
in
Okay.
Japanese. Yeah, but
Gotcha.
manhwa, I think, is how they pronounce it. It's
Okay.
this is I have like the physical version of it. I guess most, and it just came out in English, but most of it's online for I don't know. I guess it's free. There's probably sites you can read it on, but
Sure.
it's pretty cool so far. I don't know how the chapters are based online versus in the book, but in the book there's three different chapters, and so really this is just set up for what's gonna happen. It was pretty solid though. It's about the weakest hunter in the world, and so they live in a world where there was this awakening thing that happened, and like all these people showed up out of nowhere, and some of them had abilities similar to in video games. Like someone, could be like a mage, and then another person has healing abilities. Someone else might just be a little like better reflexes than a normal person, be like a paladin type of thing. So these people are called hunters, these people with powers, and they're just part of society now. And then there's like these portals that showed up around the same time, and these portals let you go to dungeons and basically play through like a video game type scenario. You beat the boss, you get the goods, like you collect stuff, and you could take it back to the real world. And it's actually like you could trade it for like real stuff. Like some of it's really valuable. And so we
Hmm.
follow this guy named I think Jin Woo Sung, and they rank all their hunters. So there's like S class is obviously the best class, A B C D E is the lowest, and he's an E class. He's an E class hunter, so he doesn't go on many high ranked missions. Obviously, he's going to be on the D ranked missions and below. Like, and so they really try to rank you obviously with your where you're supposed to go. It's like anything else, like matchmaking. Like they have like their crews like almost like D&D, where like they have like a crew of people, they work well together, and they go on missions and go through dungeons and make money. That's how they make a living, some of them. And so from not from the get-go, but through the couple chapters, you see that yeah, this guy's really weak, but he's got a good mind for understanding how to beat bosses and go through dungeons and stuff. So he has a really good understanding. He almost dies on every mission, and he's not even going on hard missions. So um, basically, he has a second awakening at a point where he should have died. Like he was about to die and he has another awakening, which basically it's very, very, very rare. But you can go from E tier to B tier, like you just get a big power up basically if certain requirements are met by you. And so basically he's about to die. This window pops up and kind of freezes stuff. And it's like, do you want to accept the conditions? You have met the requirements for blah blah blah. I can't remember what it's called. I don't think they call it the second awakening, but it's like you've met the requirements for this, and he's like, yeah. And so basically, he wakes up and he's in the hospital. A bunch of stuff happened. A bunch of people died. It went really bad. Like there was these godlike bosses basically, and they were in this room trying to figure out how to get out. And he figured the way out, but he had to sacrifice himself. That's where I think kind of they were alluding to, like tried to sacrifice himself to save the remainder of the people in the dungeon. And so it's just a really broad version of the story, but yeah. So basically, he
Sure.
gets these. I don't know what he gets, but basically now he has like this HUD as he's walking around normal day life, which isn't a normal thing. He gets like these requests type thing, like, "Hey, you need to do this today, or you're going to be put into this really bad situation." So basically, it's forcing him to train and level up on his own. And so that's kind of where we leave it in this episode. But pretty cool premise, in my opinion. Obviously, it's that zero to hero kind of story, which I do enjoy. But I think the art's really cool, really solid. In manhwa versus manga, manhwa is very similar to our comic books, where they're full color. Uh, you know,
Ah,
stuff like that. So really easy to read and stuff. But yeah, I think I'll keep reading this. Maybe not to get the physical versions, but read it on some of the websites it's on, and I'll get back with more reviews. But yeah, I liked it a lot. Pretty cool. Interested to see where it goes.
nice, nice. It sounds kind of so. It kind of sounds like somewhat similar to what Sword Art Online.
Kinda, yeah. But you don't like put a headset on and go inside of a game. You just walk through these portals and you're in the game. Type of
Gotcha.
thing. They're
Fair
they're
enough.
real. Like if you die there, you're dead in real life. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Fair enough. So, last thing on the agenda for today is Smash Ultimate. We got the two new characters that everybody's so excited
Who
for
cares?
here. People have been asking for these characters since the N64 Smash Brothers. Not really.
More sought after than Waluigi.
More, yes. Like, so basically, well, what we're talking about is Pyra and Mythra came out after a presentation, and I was really surprised that they rolled them out this quickly. I thought they were going to be towards the end of the month, but here we are. So I
Yeah.
played about 3 hours, both as and against Pyra and Mythra, and so just initial impressions. A lot of functionality. You can swap between the two characters super quick. It's basically like a similar to how like Zelda and Sheik were in Melee, or a better example, I guess, for nowadays is like Pokemon Trainer. Except instead of having three characters you're swapping between, you have two, and essentially both characters have the same smash attacks, regular attacks, and tilt attacks. So you're not really losing anything on that front, but just some of the differences in terms of like what they have different. Mithra has the speed and better recovery out of the two of them. Her side special is really good. It's like where you dash and do like a like a bunch of slices and stuff. Kind of almost similar to like Sephiroth's up special. Up special is okay. It's a little better than Pyra's recovery wise. It basically you do like an up slash and then you shoot like a laser, and you can like uh change that into like a multi-shot or a single shot that has more range. Kind of depends on what you're going for. Her neutral special, I think, is the weakest move in her kit. Essentially, you just hold down the B button and you unleash like, a couple of slices, but it's like just right in place. So you're not really moving per se. I think, I don't know. I just don't see too much functionality with that one here personally. But I think I can see people using Mythra starting out to rack up damage. Yeah. Yeah. That mouse pads are real. We got branding here, people. But I could see people using Mythra to start out just to rack up some damage. And then switch over to Pyra to you know, let out the killing move here, essentially. Her neutral air is where it's at. It's very similar to Byleth, not as good as Byleth, but it is similar. Now, switching over to Pyra, she has the range and the kill power. Side special is really good for zoning. It's where she throws her sword, it lights on fire, and it spins. But there is a caveat to that. Essentially, what you do is like while that's going, you can move around, but you can't attack. So you have to either dodge or jump or move out of the way if your side special fails or your opponent dodges that. Up special is kind of similar to Ike's. You come up and then you come down with like a strike that goes up and then goes straight down. It's a lot stronger, has a lot more range in terms of Ike's up special, but it's not great for recovery. Like, I will say that much. Neutral special is okay. I could see it being used for like maybe landings or like when people try to roll back up from the edge because it kind of goes on both sides. It's where you spin your sword around and kind of almost like Link's sword spin. Her forward smash might be her best move in the game because it kills early and has a decent amount of range. Both characters have their pros and cons. I think this is probably going to be a character we will see in competitive play. Obviously, this is one of the least popular characters to get announced for Smash, but if you're willing to look past that, I can see this character just wrecking on the pro level, personally.
What are like the pro level? What are they playing mostly? Like, what's the?
So most pros. So Pikachu is one of them. Joker is another one. Pokemon Trainer is one that Tweak almost won Evo with against the grand champion of Smash Ultimate. Palutena is another one. Zero Suit Samus is one. I think those are typically what you're going to find most of the best of the best mostly playing for the most part. So
nice. Okay.
So I could definitely see her being adopted by quite a few players. This is probably like an A tier, maybe S tier. Only time will tell.
That's unfortunate to hear. So that's it for our show this week. Thank you guys for listening. We greatly appreciate it. Check us out on our social medias. Make sure you like and subscribe. All those good things. Leave a review. Have an awesome week. And remember, everyone's learned about something.
Bye-bye.